So shame on me for not buying an Edelworm TP3 PSA 10. Because otherwise it's going to cost me a liver, and I think it is going to cost me a liver. Unfortunately. Coming up next...
In a world full of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, grading, selling, buying, one card game remains supreme. One man has the insights you need to know. Watch and subscribe now. YugiohTube.
What's up, YouTube? YugiohTube here, back with Retro Pack and Tournament Pack Special. This is going to be a market watch, pretty brief, pretty short, but right to the point. And if you are a Patreon, thank you for being a Patreon. You are seeing this 48 hours before it gets uploaded to YouTube. If you're on YouTube, thanks for subscribing and liking and commenting on all my videos. I really appreciate it. And we are happy to have you here at the YugiohTube community with market watches. A lot of folks have been asking me for market watches, and we continue on here again with the Retro Pack. And we look at Retro Pack 1, and we haven't really seen much of a move. We see a PSA 10 Exchange of the Spirit from Secret Rare from Retro Pack 1 go for asking for $1,000. Obviously, Cyber Harpy Lady, excuse me, the iconic card of the set. And we see these mini boxes still remaining at about $800 a box. It's still crazy, right? But we have seen no movement in the set. We see PSA 8 Blue Eyes White Dragons wanting $145 and actually selling at that price. And we see Scapegoats, of course, going for some good money as well. But overall, this set is just kind of stagnating. We're seeing that plateau right now on this set. Of course, it's rare. But at the same time, we're not seeing any kind of growth. It's kind of all been the same in the last year or two. And I'm not a big Retro Pack fan, so take it as you will. Retro Pack 2, on the other hand, well, not too crazy either. PSA 10 Shining Dragon, Blue Eye Shining Dragon, they want $1,200. This card has kind of hovered around this point for a very, very long time. And as you can see, yeah, there's some crazy prices being asked for other 10s of other secrets. But overall, this set also hasn't really moved. I mean, we aren't seeing much movement at all. The sealed product, really not that expensive either, comparatively. It's kind of remained at the same price. It really exploded a couple of years ago, or maybe even a year ago even. But it hasn't really gone up. And this is something I'm not surprised at all. Now, who's to say? Maybe I'll be wrong, and maybe a few months from now the things will explode again. I just don't see it. I'm not a Retro Pack fan. I've never been a buyer of this set. You know, I just don't see this. I don't understand why it's so desirable. It's a reprint set, and I just don't get it. But we are seeing these prices plateau and stabilize for the first two Retro Packs. Now, Tournament Packs here, whole different ball game. Tournament Packs, we are seeing bigger prices. As we go to sold listings, this is hard to believe for me, why a white hole would sell for $350, but maybe it did sell for $350. They're tough to pull. Mechanical Chaser, okay, $1,000. It's kind of remained at that point for a very long time. Haven't seen much movement on that, but we're seeing less and less being auctioned off. So, in my opinion, if you don't have a Mechanical Chaser, you might want to look into it. Again, it's not going to be a card that's going to fly off eBay. It's not going to be an ultimate rare from GX. It's not going to be a Blue Eyes White Dragon. It's not going to be one of those high in-demand cards or even boxes, but it is something just to keep an eye out for. Actually, in my opinion, all of the Tournament Pack Ultras, we haven't seen much growth for the most parts. We've seen some growth, but compared to some of the bigger growth of the GX era stuff, and obviously way back with the Blue Eyes and LOB stuff, we're not seeing those major jumps like we did with the other stuff. So people might be outpriced of the GX stuff and then want to move out to the Tournament Pack stuff. So that's very interesting to note, so just keep an eye out for that. Tournament Pack 2, TP2 cards, okay? TP2, well, you know, it's Morphing Jar. That's basically it. Morphing Jar and a bunch of the rares, right? Especially a Skull Guardian here. But Skull Guardian as a gem mint, they only want 300. I remember when this card was hitting, what, like 200 raw, you know? But we're not seeing that growth. Jinzo Jar is also part of this set. There's the Jinzo foiling, PSA 9 at 4,700. And, of course, looking at some sold listings here. TP2 always has remained the most expensive sealed product for good reason. PSA 9 morphing jars at about $1,500. I'm sure PSA 10s would net around $3,000 to $4,000 at this point. But again, it's a card that hasn't really seen a skyrocket, which is normal, which is okay. Will we see a skyrocket in morphing jar? Maybe. But 3 to 4 is kind of hard to keep on going. That's the price where you really need a decent, pool of buyers at that price, and I don't know if we're going to see that. Having said that, if you do want one, it's not horribly outpriced like a LOB Blue Eyes where you're totally out of it. So just keep that in mind. TP3, oh boy, TP3. This is a set. Needleworm or bust. Needleworm or bust. As you can see, a couple boxes actually sold here. Let's just take a look and see what they went for. And $900 in December, and in January, $400. $400. Wow. Because that's a pretty good deal, in my opinion. That comes out to $20 a pack. And that's a pretty good deal, actually, $400. Now, here's why. A needleworm. Crazy, 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 crazy card. PSA 9, $310. You can see it's off-center left to right, right? Now, this is a card with injection variability that's so historically off-center that there's, I believe, 4 in existence, pop 4. It's so off-center to where it's almost going to be impossible to see more of these pop-up needleworms. As you can see, here's a complete set. As you see, the same centering on this needleworm. It's off-center, left to right. Unless PSA that day decides to be very generous, that's an easy 9 all day, considering nothing else is wrong with it. This is a set that is going to basically be determined by needleworm. Let's be honest. And I don't see needleworm ever going down in value. I don't see needleworm 10s popping out of nowhere. Let's say someone finds 10 boxes of TP3. All right? 10 boxes. They're going to pull 2 needleworms. 10 boxes of TP3 is a lot. Right? And if this miraculous case happens, 2 needleworms are pulled. Do you honestly think both those needleworms are going to get 10s with those centerings? Even in the worst case they do, what happens? It goes from pop 4 to pop 6. And this is coming from someone that doesn't own needleworm. I don't own a dang thing in TP3. But I do know that people who have needleworms don't want to get rid of them. For good reason. And people who want to go for the tournament pack sets are going to need it. Are going to need it. So shame on me for not buying a needleworm. TP3, PSA 10. Because otherwise it's going to cost me a liver, and I think it is going to cost me a liver. Unfortunately. Coming up next, TP4. TP4. Obviously, again, you got morphing jars as super, but aside from that, you have other supers here. But aside from that, these are pretty poor super rares. It's Royal Decree or bust. Royal Decree, a PSA 9, is selling for $150. I think the 10, I want to say, was like $400 to $500, which is not that bad considering this also had very low pop, extremely low pop, and TP4 is a set that's not easy to come by either. So, if you have a chance to buy a TP4 Royal Decree, maybe think about going for it. TP5, a poor set, not much movement at all. We see Luminous Soldier here asking outrageous prices. A Luminous Soldier realistically is $200, PSA 10 all day. This one actually sold for $122. My goodness. My goodness. That's right. 9.5 sold for $41. Holy cannolis. How are the subs? Oh, it has 9 centering. Yeah, it was pretty off center. But my goodness. Okay, 122 for PSA 10. This set was so just not coveted at all. And people had sealed boxes of this set. Sealed boxes for days, forever. Now, with everything will dry up. But Luminous Soldier, it's cool art, but it's like so cheap. And there's just not a demand for it. And there's so many out there now, I think. Don't quote me on that, but there's definitely a decent amount, I think, out there. PSA 10 TP6. So we obviously see 2 Cannon Soldier and we see Toon Table, right? Tough set to call. I think Toon Cannon Soldier, I want to say, is 300 to 400, maybe in a 10, perhaps. Obviously, this guy wants 720. I don't see that happening, but I think there could be some growth in Toon Cannon Soldier because it is a Toon card. It was a Pegasus card as well. And where are you going to find TP6 again, folks? I don't know why there's TP6 twice. Let's see what we did there. I don't know, TP6 twice. TP7. TP7, one of the biggest sets out there. Fortress Whale, DD Warrior, Breaker, the big three. Great set. We have seen major gains in Fortress Whale. PSA 9, 350. I think a PSA 10 is like 800-ish, which is nuts to think about. 750, 800. A DD Warrior, folks, just sold for 177. What a deal. Basically mint, okay? Basically mint DD Warrior sold for 145. 145, basically mint. PSA 9, 115, so for 177 for the 10, who I actually know who got this. Actually, I believe is a Patreon. So thank you. Thank you for being a Patreon. 170 for a 10? That's a deal. I mean, I get it's auction, and that's where you got that deal, but what a deal. And Fortress Whale is also a big card. But if you can pick up a DD Warrior for under 200, Ultra from TP7 with cards in the set that are worth a lot of money, go for it. What a deal. And lastly, TP8, obviously, totally dominated by Harpy's Feather Duster. 500 for the Super PSA 9. And here you go, actually. Here's a few. This one actually sold for 550. This one actually sold for 430. So a little bit better there. And the Magical Arm Shield PSA 9 175 as a 10, it's extremely rare to get. So very, very hard to find. But I think they're going, I want to say 500 plus, maybe even higher. Because they're hard to come by. But a PSA 10 Harpy's Feather Duster, name your price. Garma Sword, pretty expensive. Not Fortress Well expensive, but pretty up there as well. What do you think of tournament packs and retro packs? Let me know in the description, or I should say in the comments section. And if you're interested in seeing market watches before they go on YouTube, go check out the Patreon. And if you just want to support the channel, go check out the Patreon as well. And thanks a lot, everybody, for watching, supporting the channel, like, subscribe, everything, all that good stuff. Until next time, YugiohTube signing out.